Hey, good afternoon, everybody. You got Will here. As always, give everyone a chance to filter in. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask them in the chat or in the Q&A section, or just raise your hand and we'll call on you. All right, just really quick as Jeff, what do you got for us, sir?
Hey, Will, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you today?
Good. So I thought this one might be easier to explain than the type. So I have some instances where it looks like one of the contractors we had that developed some flows and decisions created truth tables with a single line item entry with no input connection or no input value selection.
Okay.
That just returns a list of comma delimited IDs or integers.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So it's almost like they used it to,
Yes.
give back a common value or something, or an array.
Okay. Some just overly complicated way to like declare static variables or something.
Yeah, and I only picked up on this because it looks like in decisions version 7, you started flagging that as a flow validation.
The lack of inputs.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So now it's coming up on the flow validation. It says like something like no rule input was selected or something.
Okay.
But I was just wondering if there was a way to fix that, or if there was a best practice for that. I was sort of thinking maybe just a system constant with list of delimited values, or I'm actually not sure if system constants will support an array of values.
It doesn't support an array. It's a single, like there's no list thing. At least I don't think there is. Let's see here. Yeah, it's just a single. So it's actually outputting a list for you.
Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure how that's doing it, but the truth table entry, the output value is a comma delimited list of integers, but it's actually giving back what looks like an array of integers. But
that
I don't want to fix that. I want to do it differently, better. So I just thought I'd ask if you had any suggestions for that.
I mean, my first thought is not I mean, that just sounds like something you would just do with like a create data step as opposed to a truth table. The win there is you can get rid of all these sort of extra dependencies that really don't have any real value. But that doesn't fix the sort of maintenance question, right? Which is how to track these things down if you need to make a change.
Yeah.
You could use a system constant, and like you could just use either like a split string step, right? That splits on comma separated. So your actual CSV string is a system constant. And to get these as a list, you just map that into a split string step. That might allow you to control the CSV string, but still get it as a list. That's probably, I'm just talking a bit off the top of my head, but that's probably where it would probably go. Because then you can just add items to it and let, and then update it. That's that. And then you can also delete those truth tables. You get that way you get a single place to edit your string. And you don't have to go into the designers to do that. You could see them all together because you could actually, you could edit this report if you wanted to, or just make a report of them if you wanted to see that at a project level, whatever your static CSV strings might be. Since it's just like in the flow constant table. Yeah, that's probably where I'd go, Jeff, is use a flow constant in tandem with a split string step to give you the same behavior and not have those kind of wonky truth tables laying around all over the place.
Sounds good. I just thought I'd bring it up, see if there was like any decision sorcery that would handle that better.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think. Yeah. So.
Sounds good. Thanks, Will.
Yeah, you bet. All right. So here we go. Manal's got a question. I have a validation rule. Let me put this in the chat here. Okay, I have a validation rule that requires upload document box depending on the request type. For example, I have a plate type as one request type and annual inspection as the other. I need to have an upload document required for annual inspection and not for plate type. My rule is working, however, in case the user does have a document for plate type, the validation rule doesn't pass and it's keep requiring documents even when the user has already uploaded the document. Anyway, I can solve this issue. This again.
Hello, Will. This is Manal.
Hey, Manal, how are you today?
Good. I actually was able to figure out the solution of this, but I had another question. Is that possible if I can ask that real quick?
Yeah, of course. Please go ahead.
So like how I can on my list I can choose static and then I can default it. For example, like I have annual and plate, and then annual is always defaulted. Whenever I go once the user submits the form and it goes to for example, to get the approval form, it always defaults it to the value that was like it's just default. How do I change it to the value that the user changed? So for example, if they chose plate rather than annual, on the approval form, it still shows up as annual, which was the defaulted value.
This is like a drop-down list or something on a form?
Yes, the drop-down list.
Okay, so you're setting your type, your list input to static?
Yes.
And then you have A, B, C. And then you're selecting static default item here?
Yes.
Okay, so you won't be able to do that this way. The way you should be able to get this to work is have this be data name. And this is like, list of drop down items. And then this thing right here, selected item. And then what you could do here is on your form, instead of declaring them on the form, you can declare them like here. So you could declare A, B, C, and then selected item you can pass in. So this might be, I might select selected item B. And if I were to put two of these forms in sequence, what I can do is on the first form, I'm gonna do change. Actually, it'll be rename. That should be fine. So if I do this, run this, it should launch and show me B. And then if I select C and submit, that is also B. Sorry, just a second here. Oh, selected item B. Okay, so here we go. We're going to create a string called selected item. Right, and then I'm going to pass that into the selected item for my drop-down list here. And then what I want to do is do change value on the output to update whatever the user has selected. And then down here, I'll do selected item. So if this is right, I should be able to run this. It's going to launch with nothing. Sorry, 1 second. I'm going to put this as B. So if I debug this, it will launch as B. And if I select C, it should then show me C on the subsequent form. I don't think that you can pass values into the selected item if the drop-down list type is set to static instead of data name.
Okay, that makes sense. So you just created a data step and then just do the other values.
Yeah, really two things. One, declare the value you're going to map into your, you've got your values list, you have your selected item, and you have your list of values, right? This is what you get for any drop-down list that's not output only. So you'll declare the appropriate data type. Here it's a string, and set whatever you want the value to be, and then pass that in. And then make sure that you're doing change value on the output for that selected item, so that when it moves downstream and it's mapped the same, whatever the user selects on that form will be what the downstream forms are also set to. And to get them to both use the same input, I just needed to use a create data step prior, and then make sure that they both consume the value I declare on that create data step.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense. Thank you so much. And just one more thing, one really quick question. I have an email address. Is there any way to like concat email addresses? For example, like I have a submitters RC and the email address have like, for example, my name, Emanal Mansour @gmail.com. But for example, whatever my RC is, depending on the submitter's RC, it should add into after Manal Mansour. So I try to do this at HTML template where I did my email and then just did the RC, but it's still just not working correctly.
There's a step here, replace tokens and text, that might work. Well, that's a static string. You're trying to insert a value into an email address?
Yes. So it depends. The email changes depending on the submitter's code or ID. So in the end of the email, the submitter's ID gets added every single time, whoever is the submitter.
Would you like to share your screen? I'm not sure exactly.
Yes, sure.
Okay, let me make you a panelist.
Awesome. Can you hear me still?
Yep. You still there, Manal? There you go. Okay.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. But
you're showing your email right now, just as a note.
Yes. So
okay.
Just in the email, like, oh shoot, actually, no, never mind. So this is, how do I show it in the email? Sorry. Let me see if I can get the correct flow in here. Share. Great. Can you see the decisions now?
I can see your PPS expense handling form. Or yeah, it looks like you just dismissed it. Yep.
Okay, perfect. So on the email, I have this. So I try to do is just like merged HTML text. And then I did like PPS expense handling. And then I just went to the extension data. I have like the whole submitter information in here. So I just went to submitter and then I added the RC code is like the It's
Okay.
RC code is the ID, and then I added like at gmail.com. But
Okay.
whenever I do it, it doesn't like really works.
Like you don't get a value for the mapping.
It just doesn't send anything. It says like it's system.
I would probably use a plain text merge for this. So you don't get any HTML characters in your submitter string. That's the first thing I would try. You're using HTML merge here.
Okay.
The problem is that you don't get an email sent.
Yes. So it just doesn't do anything. It's just it keeps like giving me an error. So like for example, if I do this, and
You actually, the send email step throws an error.
sorry.
The send email step itself will throw an error.
Yes. So whenever it just says the to item is not correct, I get like an
Okay.
error.
Well, we can look at that. Are you an
Mhm.
admin on this server?
No, I am not. I'm just
We
like,
could. Okay, I was gonna say if you could show me the error, that's probably the best place to start.
I can just debug it, I guess, and
Okay.
then show it maybe. I don't know if it's gonna do anything because sorry, it's taking a while. I think I will have to put it in a request. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna do really fast. Apologize. There we go. And then okay, it's gonna get stuck here. Okay, I guess it's just not working. It's okay. I can just probably submit it a ticket.
It could be. There's lots of possibilities for why it's not working. You know, it could be that your SMTP server is rejecting it, in which case you need to follow up with your ops team for that, right? You know, you might just make a simpler flow, just run a send email step by itself and like statically type in some of the stuff that you're expecting to be dynamically mapped and see if it still fails that way. But this feels like, even I'm guessing here that this is like a mail server issue, probably
Okay,
not
gotcha.
something with your mapping.
So I'll just have to like ask my admin to just like check the server.
Possibly. I mean, it depends on what the error message is right now, and we haven't seen that. But likely, it's likely that it's a mail server issue, and you need some advice from them about either how to allow it or what the format of it should be, something like that.
Okay, gotcha. Actually, it just got completed.
So that looks like it went through, but it didn't throw an error in decisions, at least, which means the SMTP server didn't throw an error.
Perfect. That makes sense. And it also just ran, and then I did the regular text. It actually worked. Thank you so much.
Oh, okay, great.
I appreciate your help. Thank you so much.
You bet. You bet. Okay, and I don't know how to move you back. Why did they take away my permissions? That's dumb. All right, so I guess you'll just be a panelist. All right, Mr. Alex Potter. When I click on a changes, when I click, oh, let me get this in the chat here. When I click on changes for check and change for project, I get an object I don't think is changed. Is there a way to find out what decisions thinks is changed? Not in, hey, Alex, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How are you doing, Will?
Hey, nice to talk to you, man. Not in any great detail, but it only chains off of two possible values, which is the revision ID of that resource and the modified date. And so if either one of those is newer than what's checked in now, it's going to it's going to consider it to be newer, but you can't like look at like a flow and get a detailed description of what's different between the version you might be running on prod now versus the version that's trying to be checked in by this thing. If that's the actual question, there's no insight into the details of the change besides having to manually review them, unfortunately.
Okay, so I have one more question about the repository server, if that's okay.
Of course.
When I go to check out changes from project, like on the import, when you do the import export, you get to a point on the import where you can click a thing that asks you to choose what objects you'd like to import. Like I don't seem to get that on the repository checkout changes.
You get a list of to allow you to exclude items from the import.
Yeah, when I do import, I get when it gets to the import screen, it allows me to click a button which takes me to a screen where I can put check marks on the objects that I want to import or exclude. Whereas when I go through the checkout changes from the repository server, it just does it. So, like there's a bunch of stuff that I've got in the repository server that I don't want to bring into production just yet, but there's some components of that project that I do. So I'm kind of wondering, am I at this point, do I have to do this like export them from UAT and import them to production so that I can?
You could do that though. Or you could download them individually out of the repo server. I think more ideally you'd be using branches for this, so that like you'd be checking the whole thing in at once.
Right.
I'm struggling to imagine in my mind's eye the dialogue you're referring to in import export. But if we do allow you to do that, it's probably not intentional. Like the goal has always been to make you have to promote the whole thing at once, even if that's less than ideal. So we kind of do make it a bit of a pain in the butt to manually migrate individual items.
Yeah, so
you could move them. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, like, so you make it easy for me to, like, although a bunch of stuff has changed in a project, when I go to check it into the repository, you make it easy for me to exclude a bunch of stuff.
Correct.
Right? So,
yep.
Yeah, and so like in the import export, you get that flexibility on both sides of the equation. But it seems with the repository, I'm kind of stuck moving all or nothing.
Yeah, I'm surprised that we let you do that on import, I guess, is honestly, given a lot of the stuff we've been doing to try to harden that. But yes, so, you'll have to, if you need to move them individually for the current moment, then you would need to basically build up a custom export zip of the pieces that you need.
Okay, perfect. That's great.
As unideal as that might be.
Right, yeah. Okay, appreciate that.
You bet, sir. Jeff, is your hand still up? Oops. Sorry. Is your hand still up, or do you have another question, sir? Hey, I think Jeff's hand is still up. Anybody else have any other questions for us? Okay, well, we're about at 12:30, so I think we'll go ahead and call it a day. Just some housekeeping before we cut everyone loose. Tomorrow we've got Brandon, and Thursday we've got Sandell. Tomorrow we've got a in-person event in Charlotte called Bacon and Business Rules. We're having a customer of ours in healthcare meet with some prospects. If you guys are in or around Charlotte, you can register through our site, or you reach out to me. I can give you some more information about it. And we've got another in-person training event being held at our headquarters in the beginning of December. So we're getting back into doing in-person training again. And so the Q4 event is December 6th through the 8th. We've also got a newsletter and that we just started sending out. If you'd like to get on that list, please let me know. And we've got another of our bi-weekly roadmaps on this Thursday with our product manager, Eric Wolmeright. Okay, well, thanks everyone for the time today. Sandell will be here to answer, Brandon will be here tomorrow to answer your questions. I hope you have a great day.